Day 12, Psalm 4. Prepare. The presence of God is like food and drink. If your soul comes away empty, it means you haven't experienced His presence. Pray Psalm 90:14 for yourself. Satisfy me in the morning with your unfailing love, that I may sing for joy and be glad all my days. Your deepest desire. Earnestness is the key to answered prayer. What is the deepest, most driving desire in your heart today? Cry out to God for that. Meditate. Psalm 4, 1-3. Answer me when I call to you, O my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Be merciful to me and hear my prayer. How long, O men, will you turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Selah. Know that the Lord has set apart the godly for Himself. The Lord will hear when I call to Him. The first two verses show us this psalm is for times when we are mistreated. What does verse 3 teach us about God? Verse 3, know that the Lord has set apart the godly for Himself. The Lord will hear when I call to Him. How is that attribute of God helpful in times when people are mistreating you? When you have a conflict with someone, much of your frustration often comes from the person refusing to listen. We all desire to be listened to by someone who cares about what we're saying, understands, and is sympathetic. Consider what a marvelous truth it is that God not only listens, but understands and cares. Take a quiet moment to enjoy the experience of being listened to by God. Another truth we learn about God is in verse 1. Answer me when I call to you, O my righteous God. He is righteous. He hates it when things aren't right. He hates injustice, and He is highly motivated to set wrong things right. It's part of His nature. Take a moment to meditate on this truth. Conform your conception of God to include the fact that not only is He sympathetic to your plight, but He is highly motivated to set things right. Another attribute of God in verse 1 is that He is the source of mercy and relief from distress. We all claim to believe that, but do we really? When someone is mistreating you, the natural reaction is to think that person is in charge of whether you get relief. We feel like they are in charge of our well-being. We might pray to God for 30 seconds and spend 2 hours arguing with the person. How would your response be different if you truly believed God is the only one who determines whether you get relief? When David was mistreated, he cried out to God, and what he asked for was greater nearness to God and greater experiences of God's attributes. When you are mistreated, it causes anxiety, which is emotional energy. Think about ways you might convert that emotional energy into more passionate desire for God. Verse 6 speaks of God shining his face upon us, which is a Hebraism for a smile. Above all else, David longed for God's smile on his life. When we live as man-pleasers, our greatest concern is acceptance and respect from people. But when we fear God and not men, our greatest desire is like David's. We want God's approval, and if we have that, it's enough. In times of conflict, we must shift from asking, is that person wrong, to, do I have God's approval right now? What could you use as a reminder to think that way when you're at odds with someone? What kind of response to your current circumstances do you think would provoke a smile from the face of God toward you? After David seeks the smile of God, even though there is no indication that his enemies stopped what they were doing, still, what is the outcome? Verse 7, you have filled my heart with greater joy than when their grain and new wine abound. I will lie down and sleep in peace, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. How would it honor God if you were to find that kind of joy and peace in his smile on your life, even while all the chaos and trouble are still ongoing? Ask God for that. Pray for others, the suffering, persecuted, and lost. Think of someone you know who is suffering and pray that they would experience these attributes of God. Now pray the same thing for brothers and sisters around the world who are being persecuted and imprisoned for their faith. pray the same for anyone else God has placed on your heart today. Think of someone near you who is lost. Pray that the Holy Spirit would enable them to see these attributes of God and desire Him. Ask the Lord to give you an opportunity today to share the gospel with someone who is lost, and that you will be ready so that you don't miss the opportunity. Thanksgiving. Think of some of the experiences you have had with these attributes of God. Chew on those memories like a choice steak. Extract the flavor and take in the goodness of them until your heart swells with joy. Then express that joy to God with an I love you too expression. Take it with you. Which of these attributes do you need to spend the most time thinking about today? That God listens? That He cares? That He's motivated to set wrong things right? That He's the source of mercy? That He's the only one in charge of relief? That He delights in His people and His smile is all you need to be happy? Talk to God about it.